Thank you, everybody, for joining us for the fourth and final panel here at Keeping the Borderlands at Amtgard Leadership University, where we're going to be talking specifically about monarchs. Big hat, big chair, big responsibilities, or a big opportunity. That's the kind of stuff that we're going to talk about as we go forward and speak with each one of these monarchs. Just as we have in the panels, each member of the panel is going to introduce themselves, and then we'll see where conversation goes from there. So without further ado, Kenshin.
Hi, I'm Kenshin. I'm from TD. I've been king twice in TD. I've been regent once, champion once, and Knight of the Crown. I've done a few things with the Kapor here and there, so that's pretty much what I'm doing here.
Okay.
I'm Daedera. I am from the Rising Winds. I'm the current monarch, getting ready to exit here. It's been lovely. I've been regent before, and I've served in every office at my local park. I've done a few bit with the Kapora, and I am here to help you.
I'm Jinx. I'm from the Rising Winds. I was queen twice. I've been duchess. I've been regent of my local park, and I'm here to serve.
My name is Harold. I'm from the Wetlands. I am a previous monarch of the Wetlands, and I've been duchy monarch, duchy regent, and I am sitting kingdom prime minister of the Wetlands.
So Raphael, I'm six-time king of Burning Lands and former Prince Polaris.
Big thing, just some housekeeping I would ask you is keep the table noise down, because we got a pretty sensitive microphone there, so it's going to pick up on any SOSs or other love tapping that you do. And also I would ask you to remember that you're not just talking to me, you're actually talking to everybody in attendance, especially those in the back. So please feel free to speak up. The battle games have been great, it sounds like, here at Keep. So they're going to get nice and loud, so please try to speak over them. Okay. So let's start off with that. Responsibility, opportunities, things like that. Is being monarch a job? Daedera.
Yes, it is a job. You have responsibilities. You have responsibilities at work. But you shouldn't make it like a job. It should be the kind of job that you love to do. There's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of prep. You're constantly needing to be there for your people, to answer questions, to help out, to step up when you need to if things aren't working out. You got the big hat. You got to make sure everything's running smoothly and make sure everyone's having a good time.
Harold?
Like in most things, it's what you put into it. It is what you make it. It can very much be a job. At the same time, it's a lot of fun. It can be a blast. It's very much what you make it.
Okay. Anybody else want to add? Okay. So we'll go straight into some of the questions being provided. Parks in decline. You guys are monarchs. Personal drama. How do I address that? What does a monarch do? Either as a kingdom monarch or even a subordinate land monarch. How do we address the drama issue and the toll it can take on a park? Kenshin?
Drama, I feel like, is a really popular buzzword in Amtgard. People apply the word drama to a lot of situations and to a lot of interpersonal dealings and stuff like that. I believe that it very much exists and it's a real thing, but you have to kind of look at, if it's a really case-by-case thing, but say you were having a disagreement, like you and I were having a disagreement at park, and we weren't getting along, and things got heated during a battle game or something like that. People are going to have those moments, especially in a contact sport sort of scenario. So how those people deal with them, I think, is pretty much the most important thing. So if it's something like an interpersonal beef that people have, and it's kind of making people want to shy away from that whole scene, that if these people are going to be getting violent with each other or something like that, I don't want to be a part and I don't want to be around this. So I think that maybe just talk to those involved and see where their heads are, and if you can't get them to come to some sort of an agreement or an understanding, then you'd have to make a decision from there to either remove them from the situation of being at the park completely. So, a lot of people like to talk about the ban and the ban hammer and stuff like that. There's a time and a place for that to happen, so you have to be judicious in how you deal with people.
Okay. Jinx?
One of my biggest things when I went to parks that were having issues was I asked how often they were actually playing Amtgard. Like, a lot of parks spend a lot more time sitting and arguing about rules or who is going to be, the GM of archers at, a small local park or what have you. But a lot of the times, as soon as I would get to a park and we'd kind of sort out some smaller issues and then play Amtgard, most of the parks started having a much better time. Like, they remembered how much they actually enjoyed playing the game, and they forgot about dealing with some slights that may have occurred or what have you. But the more people you have playing the game, the more a newbie will come up and say, oh, there are actually 15 or 20 people playing instead of 10 people sitting around arguing.
Raphael, what's some good ways for me to deal with a maybe an officer with less of a work ethic than I have as a monarch?
What's a better way to deal with an officer with that?
That's slacking.
That's slacking. Man, nowadays you have corporas with fail safes in it, but we've had that issue in Polaris, and what we were really doing is you had guys who were going to be in office after this crummy monarch, and it was essentially, you had to do damage control, saying, you're unhappy, we get that, please wait 3 months and let us show you how it's done. We had the same thing when, if you've ever heard of the Principality of Olympus, they wanted to leave, the duchy wanted to leave because they were unhappy with 2 princes, and we made a 6-hour drive, pleaded our case, they voted not to leave, and we had a 1.5 years of good times before they ultimately decided it wasn't working. But it's like, we used to have a saying in Burning Lands that crummy nights are forever, but crummy monarchs leave in 6 months. So
obviously that goes beyond to all the officers for the most part,
absolutely.
Right? Okay. Daedera, do you want to expand on that, or?
If you have an officer that's not doing their job, I would contact them personally and be like, hey, what's going on? Because sometimes shit happens in people's real lives and they might be having some hard times. And, maybe they're not getting back to you right away. Maybe you can help them out. That's kind of like your job as another officer. You have been elected to make sure that everything's going to go well. So you're going to have to step up sometimes. I know at my shire, I had all my officers step down. That's how I got my lady title. I was the champion, regent, sheriff, everything. And so, but sometimes it happens, and don't let it get to you. Just, it happens. Try not to hold it against them, and move on, and just keep that in mind in the future. If they run again, if they dropped the ball before, they might drop it again. And that's where you have the power as a voting member of your park to stop it or to step up and do it better.
Harold, what do you say to people that live far away, maybe from the kingdom seat or the larger parks in a roaming keep, in a roaming crown? How do they overcome the travel barrier, both for if they want to participate more at the kingdom level, but also get kingdom level recognition? What are your tips?
The Wetlands is actually a relatively small kingdom. Very, very recently, we've actually brought in a new park, Tiger Swamp, that is... the Wetlands goes from College Station, Texas, which is pretty well central Texas. The newest park is near to the very center of Louisiana. That's the longest drive within our kingdom borders. Probably a good 7-8 hours. It's rough going. Being the floating nature of our crown, though, we send it ping pongs all over the place. We never know where our monarchs are coming from. It's tough for me to answer that question. I don't have as much of the experience as someone like, even the Emerald Hills, where they have, they had the principality there, Dreadmore, I believe, which was Oklahoma. They had a much larger territory than we do. Rising Winds with Polaris.
Even without Polaris.
I applaud you. I really do.
Then I'll jump in there, and because Rising Winds is going to be the next stop, and I don't know who wants it, but so what? Rising Winds is ridiculous in size.
It is.
How do you, as a monarch how do you make sure everybody feels like they're valued, but at the same time, what's your recommendation to get them?
I think our biggest innovation, for better or worse, in the last couple of years has been Facebook. Staying tied together through electronic communication like that, it's a lot different than when I first started with Yahoo groups. Facebook has definitely allowed people to become much, much closer and allows you to stay in much better contact with your people. I used it as a resource every day to help check on parks, to people that had been having issues. It was super easy to get in contact with me because they could just pop up Facebook Messenger chat. They didn't have to dig through and find where my email was listed on the Kingdom page, which, should be probably front and center. But, they could jump on Facebook and it was instant. The other part of it was making sure that at our events, because our Kingdom is so far flung, making sure that there was a good range of things to do at our events that kind of made sure people kept coming to make sure they weren't missing out. So that's why we started doing best of the best at our Kingdom level events. That allowed for there to be an A&S competition at our events, because we normally run Weapon Master and the Quals tournaments and Dragon Masters about 2 to 3 weeks before. But I say Facebook and just that open communication is absolutely amazing. I can't imagine having been a Monarch in a time without Facebook. I am so sorry. I feel
possibly pre-internet.
Yeah, I feel like having watched, growing up, I was very close with a lot of the early Rising Winds Monarchs, so Gregor, Hobbit, Owl, all those people, and I got to watch them do all their communication through that and just pulling their hair out, and it's immensely easier. Immensely.
Sorry. Kenshin, you want to elaborate on that?
I gotta agree with Jinx that definitely Facebook is a very big deal, and it's made Amtgard come a long way in terms of how people are heard and who gets heard and things like that. I remember ESAM, Electric Samurai, which is a great website and everyone should go to it. It was a lot different several years ago though. A lot of people were turned off by it, and a lot of people didn't like it and wouldn't go to it. Because there was a lot of that drama, again, like we talked about earlier, that took place on ESAM. And everyone knows about that, whether they've been there or not. But I think that being able to communicate with everybody like that is definitely much better. And I think that traveling to parks is important, but at the same time, it's more important to make sure that those parks' needs are being met in other ways. Like that they're having their events and they're holding their quals and their Dragon Masters and stuff like that, especially when you have a lot of new parks like TD does. Our Kingdom's only a few years old. We've got, I think, 11 or 12 parks at this time, and a lot of those are parks that have popped up in the last 5 years or less. So making sure those parks know what they're doing and have people in place that can be in office and stuff like that know the rules and know the culture and know how the social aspect of the game works is very important. So it's really important that you find those people and you talk to them and train them up and get them really interested in the game.
Okay.
I'd like to add.
You bet.
Okay. One of the things that I've been really excited about recently is the I'm gonna say it wrong. The SOR. It's the State of Amtgard report. There we go. You can go on there and see a lot of freeholds and what states they're in. And if they're local to you, you should reach out to them as your monarch and be like, hey, I'm from this kingdom. I see your freehold. If you guys need anything, just come talk to us. Why don't we play a play date? We'll you guys come raid us. We'll come raid you, and start bringing them into that culture early. I think that's really great.
That's how we found Tiger Swamp.
Yeah.
Connected with the local park, and hey, we're the nearest kingdom seat. Come check us out.
Did you want to add anything, Raphael?
No, I was jotting notes down for later.
Okay.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about that. How do I recruit new players? Harold, you just gave an example with Tiger Swamp, but number one tip, real quick, What do you recommend to recruit new players?
Be visible. Be visible. Your local park, one of your best assets potentially is just people in the park. We dress funny, and if you throw out a few signs and you're friendly, I mean, that's how Mordenguard recruits most of its members. Just being the weird guys in the park every week. Hey, come have fun with us. We usually have raiders that are grilling. It helps a lot.
Food, definitely.
Would you like some food? You can hit us too.
Food is cheap. Dang
It's being visible into the public eye. It really makes all the difference in the world for recruiting. You can certainly do demos. I encourage you to do demos. Be visible, however you possibly can.
So you mentioned food, and I'll get back to the question, just something that not everybody's aware of. Northreach, what they do to capitalize on both the food and the ambiance that goes along with it and the camaraderie at the time is they hold newbie barbecue days, where that's when, if you're going to recruit, bring them out that day, and it's all focused on that. So everybody's got that motive. So the question was specific about if you have few numbers. I don't know who's provided that question, but I think that would be a great way to do it. Focus your effort at one time, as opposed to every week you got to grill a crat, but you could focus that a little bit more. So maybe another recommendation.
We had and when we were the Shire of Starmount for the space station, we had a program where if you brought out a new guy, brand new, 7 times, both of you get a Starmount tabard. So it was an incentive for 2 new pieces of garb, bring color and our heraldry up, because we actually had just changed the heraldry, so it was a way to promote the new image. And we got 3 new members out of it in a reign, we went from 7 to 10 guys, and that's the way we were happy with that.
6 of which had tabards.
Yeah.
Right? Jinx?
My local group, Griffin's Perch, had a lot of good luck using things like meetup.com. Using sites like Meetup. There are a lot of people who have no idea that something like Amtgard exists. And it absolutely is something that a bunch of people want to do. Like, I talk to people at work about it all the time, and they're like, wait, this is a thing? Like, you can actually do this? So, letting other people know where they can just, scroll through and be like, hey, that might be a fun thing to try, is always...
Hold that thought. You're writing notes. Daedera?
I definitely agree with the meetup. I think with the age of technology that we have, we should be utilizing that as much as possible. You can use Facebook, meetups, Reddit, Twitter, just to get out as much information about you as possible. And I think I really want to get some of those. The little things you can scan with your smartphones. Most people have smartphones these days. I'm not going to say everyone. QR codes, thank you. And put that on your flyers, or and go put that up at your local places near schools. If you have a park that's foot traffic of a school, just put it up. Follow, I guess, signing laws or whatever. But put it up and get it out there so people will scan it, check it out, and you can get a rulebook scanner and put it on there, and you can also get a scanner to your direct Facebook page, so you can scan immediately and be like, oh cool, join, and then someone on your admin page will click accept, and then they can immediately be seeing that culture, be seeing what's going on, get information. Definitely.
Kenshin?
I had something good and I kind of lost it.
Okay. Raphael?
Set up geocachers for failure to come to Amtgard. No.
That's brilliant.
Set up in the middle of a disc golf
actually,
hole.
my question, my statement was kind of to the panel about how many use flyers, because we just had a food fundraiser at our park, and we watched 2 guys actually doing portals, and we saw them doing this, and we weren't sure if they were looking around to see what we were doing and stuff, and we ended up giving them a bowl of chili because that's what we were doing, and it was we should have a flyer to give these guys, because even if they just put it in their car for a while, they're going to remember they got a bowl of chili and this, and maybe, flyers are super cheap, and our website on the go.
So it amazes me whenever I travel to a place that I know has a park, and I'll hit a gaming shop and there's no flyer. It really it's mind-boggling to me, because every gaming shop has a bulletin board, and when you don't see an Amtgard flyer there, it really baffles me. But Okay, let's put our Monarch hats on. What are some things you look for when you're considering somebody for Class Paragon? Harold.
I was in the unique position. I was Monarch when V8 actually went live. I held a Class Paragon challenge. It was something kind of fun that we did in the wetlands. It was all about be the first V8 Paragon. I suppose I have a unique take. Looking for someone who's a class master, a class paragon. I always looked for somebody that exemplified the class. You had to be able to, I love sashes. They're great for clarity. But I'd love better to be able to look at you and know that guy's a scout. It's double-edged. Everybody loves clarity. Green sashes are fantastic, if that's your thing. Wear a hood. Bring something fun. The whole point of one element of V8 that's just fantastic is look the part. Look the part is one of the least utilized abilities we have within the rule set that could up our game's image by so much. If you're looking for a class paragon, the people that are consistently, there's no doubt that that's a look the part player. That's the person that you should be looking at for a class paragon, in my opinion.
Kenshin?
I was going to agree off what Harold said. Garb is definitely very important. It's definitely something that I look at when someone is up for a class paragon. An ability in that class, of course. But if you've got, like you said, if you're dressed the right way, and I can tell from afar whether you're wearing a sash or not, that guy's a scout or that guy's a paladin, whatever. That's pretty much the most important thing to me, is if I can look at you and know what you're playing without knowing it all.
Anybody else want?
I always took into consideration when someone would play a class that they weren't. And I haven't been Monarch since V8 came alive, so I haven't really looked at the whole, been looking at people under the Paragon scope, so I'm still under the Masterhood thing. But that being said, I always looked for people, like, if someone came out and I'd been considering them for a Master Healer, and they decided to come out and play Wizard sometime, if people are like, wait a second, you're a healer. Like, I always kind of took that into consideration when they were like the person that people went to, like, we need a healer, we need a wizard, we need a warrior for this, like, we need someone to strap up and be our tank for this next battle game.
I think that's important, understanding the class as well. People can look great in their garb, but I think also it's important that it's obvious that they understand their class, that they utilize their class, and I think it's really cool if they can do something innovative and bring out some parts about their class that really shine that maybe people didn't see before, but they have such a deep understanding of it that they can just really surprise you.
Raphael?
Before V8 came out, the idea of giving out master hoods would have been like, do they look the part? And it was like, long before V8 came out, it was like, all right, you'd go to an event, and it's like, oh, well, this guy's a really great wizard, he should be a master. Well, he's wearing a tattered company tabard, and he can't hit the broadside of a barn. What makes him a great wizard? And they couldn't answer it. And I'm like, give him a cowl, give him something. Everybody's right here. Every single monarch sees eye to eye on the idea that if you don't look the part, you shouldn't be one. You shouldn't be considered. As a paladin, I'm proud of that. Goldcrest clearly is proud of it. It's insulting to say your Phoenix has to be 5x5. Like, you don't look that part, tough. I mean, I'm proud of it. I want a wizard to be able to look at me 200 feet away and say, shit.
So, bouncing back to an earlier conversation, after recruiting, by the time a park becomes a kingdom or parks become a kingdom, obviously they've got some age under them, some experience, right? How do I keep the energy there and everyone involved and excited? Or do I? What's the secret to keep a kingdom performing at kingdom level quality? trying to see. Everybody's sort of looking a little bit deep in thought. Raph,
Themes.
themes? Like themed rain?
Themed rain. Yep. Like, okay, so Michael and I were about a year and a half ago in Principality. He was Prince, I was Regent, and we had a couple events already planned up, and they were events that we had already gotten the culture for setting up. So we had boosted that of like how we wanted the appearance to look. We themed the arts and sciences towards it. We themed the stepping down for it. We actually didn't have a theme other than success. Everything was going to be done right and on time, and no ifs, ands, or buts. We made sure we had the right people doing it, and if they couldn't do it, we did it. And we worked our tails off, but it was all about the idea that we're going to show you how it's done. And that was our theme. Right now we're running a comic book theme. And so people get the look the part bonus if they wear comic or superhero themed tunic. All right, which is awesome. That's what makes Amtgard fantasy, right? So we don't have to wait for Disney to acquire DC before we have the Joker and Darth Vader facing off. We can do it in Amtgard. So, themes.
I'd like to echo that. A Flash Gordon theme is always the best, in my opinion. But no, Class Paragon. We just talked about that. That is it's a useful tool. One thing I did to build excitement was I did that Class Paragon challenge, and I outlined a specific set of criteria, and then we elected all of the officers of the kingdom got together, and we actually elected out of the pool that we had that had passed specialized tests written for their class, had provided a picture of look the part in their best possible garb, and just they had to write an essay on why their class was the best written to a newbie. If a newbie wanted to go, hey, I'm looking for a class, well, here's the guide. Play healer. It's great. Don't play warrior. It's just sad. But that's the kind of stuff that we looked for, and it got a lot of people really excited. And it's looking for something that you can build excitement around. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. Keeping with the theme, I like to encourage parks to travel amongst themselves, like encourage parks to raid between each other. Actually, for the last time I was king, that was my theme. Was the parks are raiding each other, and there's a set rules, and you get points for winning games and stuff like that. Whoever has the most points, which was won by a pretty huge margin, whoever has the most points at the end, I had belt favors made, and everybody in that park got a belt favor. It says reign champion, so it's just one, just put something on the line like that. Give people something to get excited about, like you were saying, like give them something to compete over, even. Get them traveling, get them visiting each other, building those friendships, building those bonds that bring you to events. I want to go see my friends, man. My friends I don't see that live in St. Louis. Stuff like that. That's what I think would be the best way.
Daedera?
I agree. I like the idea of the competitions. I was going to touch on that. And I think a lot of times it's maybe not really thought about or overlooked. Having a little prize of something, anything, can really draw people in. You can even be as simple, for if you want to do some special fighting tournaments, it'd be like, we're going to go to these different places, and you could show up that day and give out maybe only 6 of these belt favors were made, or something like that, to make it be sort of like this rare relic kind of chance to draw them in, to get it so they can be the proud wearer and be like, I'm the only person that has something like this, or something of a select few. And that reward gives them good feelings, gets them to come out, and we want that positivity to grow.
Jinx?
I'm going to kind of have to be on the opposite side of the spectrum from everyone on this. You can't force people to be excited. If you have good events, if you have things running on time, if you have good quests written up, if you have good tournaments, the people who want to be there are going to go, and they're going to have a good time. And if people don't necessarily want to come out every week or to every event, it sucks that we have fewer people, but the people who are there are going to enjoy themselves exponentially more if they're not being surrounded by people who are just like, oh, I've got to go to the event. They're having something fun. I guess I might like it. It's come because you enjoy Amtgard. Come because you have fun playing the game.
So Harold, Flash Gordon, how do I get buy-in on these themed reigns? I mean, I've seen Hogwarts to Hunger Games to everything else. How do I get buy-in?
You describe Planet Mongo. Come on. Have you even seen Flash Gordon?
No singing is allowed. Family members are compelled. So how do I get buy-in? I'm here for Amtgard. I'm here for Wizards and Dragons and Paladins.
A lot of it is selling a theme, as part of a campaign. Hey, vote for me. Flash Gordon's awesome. Don't you want to see Flash Gordon reign? Apparently nobody likes Flash Gordon. I'm sorry. Clearly you're not going to vote for me.
We respect your opinion. It's okay.
There's dragons over here, there's Flash Gordon over here, or hey, maybe superheroes are for you. It's all part of a campaign. If you're running for office, it can be a selling point to people.
We in Minnesota, the Shire of Starmount, we elevated ourselves to a space station, and so 2.5 years we ran as a space station. Clearly, I couldn't have been sheriff for 2 years, so the populace liked it enough. And then when we joined the Rising Winds and I was Prince, that theme continued until I stepped down, which was only 6 months. But it was clear enough that people were willing to buy into it. But you have games that it's the idea of having games that will be fun for people. And when we were at Shire, we were beta testing everything so that we could take it to the bigger scale and make sure that everybody's going to have a good time. We even beta tested things for our big event, what is now our big event, but we would beta test it at the local level with anywhere between 8 to 25 guys, because as soon as people found out, that they're doing this, the success is breeding more success, and that's the big thing. So if you can find something that ensnares people, hell, I had my squire yesterday saying we need to go back to space. We might need to.
So we've got, obviously, as Amtgard continues to expand, climates. We've got Texas heat, and we've got North Dakota cold. How do we deal with the extremities? We'll start off with the cold. Anybody? I'm trying to let somebody Raph, go ahead. How do we deal with the cold?
I'm a desert transplant to Minnesota, and fortunately, you have the ability to. I have the ability to sew and research. It's fantastic for Amtgard. So you find cold gear, what works, wool tunics, and then you get a culture of people who don't want to play outside, so they rent indoor facilities. But before we got the indoor facilities, you have incentives with why you show up, like double credit day when it's below freezing. We had a huge snowstorm. I encouraged everybody to bring a shovel out, so we built a wall of snow. We played on that because my brother and I in El Paso always dreamed of the idea that one day we'd like to play on Hoth. And you get to now, and it's exciting, and now the kids don't want to. But they brought out shovels. We played. We ended up hanging out at Starbucks afterwards, and we discovered it was -3 out there that day. We're like, holy crap. Everybody gets a double credit. Like, everybody who showed up. And then we let everybody know on Facebook, hey, we showed up, we got a double credit. That probably will happen again. And then the next time it snowed, a lot of people showed up because they also got the idea that we were going to do a snow fort and use the environment.
Even at -3.
Sucks to fight a tournament in it. It's a lot of it because when you're idle, that sucks.
So we talked about paragons, and that's sort of a hot topic lately. With a game that's focused on the battle game, our rules of play make up. Obviously, it carries the most weight. We always talk about more battle games equal more people and stuff like that, themes, things like that. Paragon, does it fit right in the awards niche where it's at? Does it need to be elevated, and we need to, respect those people as gods among men, or what are your thoughts about that? Is Paragon's system and the respect associated with it broken, or is it just about right?
I think it's hard to say because it's going to vary from kingdom to kingdom. I know in the Rising Winds, only the Monarch can give it out. There are other kingdoms where I think those can be given out at lower levels. So I think the importance of it really varies on your culture. So that's something for you to go to in your kingdoms to talk to, your leaders and your other paragons to try to get that understanding. Because I think it's really going to vary from kingdom to kingdom heavily.
Okay. Anybody else want to add? Okay. Yes, no? No? Okay. So, same train of thought. Since I have kingdom level monarchs, other kinds of discussions here. Knight versus master. How do you decide that you're going to drop the sword on somebody? We're going to go all the way down the line. We'll start with Raphael.
They're different. Masters, there are some people in Amtgard that probably should never be knights. We should have stopped at master. But some people equate them as the same. If you're a master, you're a knight. And it's a taste situation. Part of me also is the idea that they should look the part. And it doesn't matter if you're a flame knight, sword or crown. You should look like a knight before the sword is dropped on you. And right now, I'm a knighted serpent. I'm embarrassed that I'm not wearing guard pants, and you can't see that. But people should be able to look around and be like, that's a knight, and not wearing like a hockey jersey and a knight's belt. Or yeah, and yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Harold?
I didn't get to make knights. Wetlands is a unique knighting situation. The circle actually votes and creates the knights, and the monarch has a veto right. I will say that I am of the opinion that masters and knights are different things. A master is someone that you can send to Olympiad and know that they're going to do and represent your kingdom very well. A knight, yes, they're certainly going to do the same thing, but a knight can also be the public face of the game. And I think that's kind of the defining difference. They are both amazing at what they do. A knight might be someone who they're more capable of being, the poster child of Amtgard. This is someone that you can introduce to anyone, and they're instantly going to hop in, tell them what they need to know, and at least point them in the right direction. They're the poster children.
Jinx?
I think that a lot of people see knighthood as the logical progression after masterhood, just in like the progression of awards because of the way that they're kind of set up. That being said, I think the main difference between a master and a knight is the teaching. Is taking someone under your wing and actually showing them what you're doing instead of competing against them. So a serpent knight, or a person who is has their serpent masterhood, goes to Olympiad, in your example, and will rock out the tournament. The serpent knight will show up with their items and find out that they have to judge, and be willing to sacrifice that to take their time to help the rest of the game move on.
Daedera?
I think they've hit it on the head right there. Definitely someone that your populace can look up to. That's really important. You want people that are going to foster that positive idea of someone that is a leader, someone who gives, someone that cares, because that's what they're there for. You see that white belt, I should be able to go to this person if I have a problem, and I can rely on them. They'll get me in the right direction, or they're going to help me personally. And it's a comfort because they're your peers, and they're the people that we should be looking up to, and people that you should be able to be comfortable to go to, that and you can trust in, and they'll help you.
Kenshin? I'm going to pretty much agree with what these guys are saying. A knight is somebody who puts the game's needs ahead of their own. If you're in an event and you came to fight and you want to ditch the whole time, and then you want to, drink with your friends at night, but nobody's here to cook feasts, and somebody's got to do it. It's got to get done because people paid for it, and they're going to be unhappy. So you're the guy that jumps in and gets it done. You didn't want to do that. You didn't want to spend your time going to the grocery store and buying a bunch of stuff and hauling it around and cooking feasts, but you did it anyway. and that says a lot about who people are and their character, I think, and that's the separation, because the master is somebody who's extremely skilled, and a knight is someone who's not only extremely skilled but is willing to sacrifice their own fun time for the betterment of everyone else's fun.
Okay.
Can I add to that real quick?
Yes.
All right. I have a catchphrase, sort of. I create, I inspire, I teach. And that works with Flame, Sword, Knight, and Crown. Create, inspire, and teach.
So I'm going to put you guys all on the spot, and guys and gals, on the spot, because I hit the Circle of Knights panel with the same question. Not that same question, but very similar. And we all gave a very romanticized approach. Well, here's a knight as a role model. Nice. So why is Amtgard so refusing to take away a knight's belt and say, you no longer represent us appropriately? Who wants that one?
Can we take 5 on the camera from this? Oh, no, never mind. Raph got it.
I think that you have some knights that are afraid that if one person is, as soon as you raise the bar of let's say you have a knight who is wearing a leopard speedo at an event and a knight's belt, walking in front of little kids, that's unknightly. If I were a parent, I would be pissed seeing that. And I'm afraid, and as soon as you start raising that bar, you have some insecure knights who are going to tighten their belt a little more and just hope that they're not the next one on that list.
Anybody else?
It's a tough question.
It's hard.
It's
very difficult because there's a lot of repercussions. There's going to always be a struggle. There's going to be some that are for and some that are against. But I really feel that you have to, not be afraid of it. And I think that's what it is. People are afraid to be able to step up and tell someone, you don't deserve this anymore. And that's really hard, especially to the peers you're looking up to. And I hope that, people can start to continue to grow the courage. I know I've heard a lot about the Iron Mountains Code of Conduct. I'm really excited about it. I know that we've been talking about in the Rising Winds about including a Code of Conduct into our corpora. And I think that is something that is good, because now then you would have a leg to stand on to where you can buffer some of the negativity, because we've got this standard and it was agreed on by everyone, because all thing has to get passed in, and if this is what your kingdom wants, then you shouldn't be afraid to deliver that to them.
It is hard, and I apologize if anybody feels like I cornered you, but I did, because, and be honest with you, I think we romanticize it a lot, and that's great. I agree with everything that you all said. And 9 times out of 10, people will say the same thing. However, the moment you start saying, well, that's not to that standard anymore, we have another perspective, or we come up with things. So I appreciate you guys indulging that. It is a personal frustration. And so obviously no one handed me that card, but you're not the only ones I hit with it. But
I'd like to address the reverse of that.
Shoot.
Because you see some guys who are knights, and people will be like, oh, well, that's so-and-so. Oh, that's so-and-so. And you address the bad behavior, and you hear that, and they're like, well, if that's so-and-so, and then you have a noob that walks off and they're like, well, I don't like that guy, he's a jerk. And you just dismiss it of like, well, that's so-and-so, that's his behavior. That's a poor reflection. And code of conducts are great, but if you think that you shouldn't be a knight anymore, perhaps you're right.
Unfortunately, it takes something really extreme very frequently in order to bring that kind of stuff out. It's a really unfortunate scenario, and I think Raph hit a good point. We're more accepting of knights that misbehave than we would be of a random other player being misbehaving. It's really unfortunate. We're prepared to dismiss that knight's behavior and for something that we might eject somebody else off a site for. And I think that's something as a culture that we need to find a good way to address. I'm not sure if the code of conduct works. I sincerely hope it does. And if it does, then I very much hope that something is implemented throughout the rest of Amtgard.
And just to be clear for everybody that's not familiar with it, they have a separate code of conduct. It's not the same code of conduct in the rules of play. They have one specific to knighting out of Iron Mountains. And little plug, they talk about it in the Knights meeting panel. that was featured at Clan that'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks. But no, and I think, and I'm going to flip seat. I think you hit on something there, and both of you did, is if the person was a knight candidate, would we welcome them into the peerage versus once they have a belt, that same perspective to maintain the belt. And I think sometimes that becomes the flip. And from my side, but I know I'm flipping on the side on the table. I really do appreciate you guys entertaining it. I know I jumped on a soapbox there, but I think it's an important conversation. I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I think it's an important conversation that we need to continue to find our own gut check on.
I think.
I'd love to hit on that.
Let her go first.
I think it's important to realize that knights should be the best of the people, and that being said, like, we are still as a knight myself, like, we're still members of the populace, and we should be held accountable for our actions. Like, if we fuck up, you shouldn't be scared. The current monarch shouldn't be afraid to say, kind of went a little too far with that one, or whatever. I think people who are coming in as monarchs who are not knights are very intimidated by having to deal with those kind of situations. And I want to tell people that you shouldn't be.
Raphael.
So, about 20 years ago seems like a long time. No, one spring war, they had Zol's castle got vandalized by a group of folks, and one person fessed up to it. Okay, but they knew who did it, and in the end, they accepted. The right people were blamed or persecuted, but one guy actually stepped up on site, said, "Hey, we were drunk. We did something stupid." On the ride home, a couple of the knights went to Dragonspine, and they were like, "What do you think we should do with this guy?" And he was their best fighter, and he'd already been a warlord, and they decided he will not be a knight. And for 20 years, he's not been a knight, because they decided that beforehand. They were like, if he's going to be a dick beforehand, he will not be from them, and forever.
Thank you for that. Any last comments on that? Okay, so we started a little bit late, and we've gone a little bit later. Thank you all for your time. What I'm going to ask you to do is just 30 seconds, 60 seconds, foot stomp. This is your opportunity. What do you want us to take out of this Monarchs panel? What's your one last breath of make sure everybody took away from this? Kenshin.
I actually want to come all the way back to the beginning about whether or not Monarch is a job. And Monarch is a job, but like everyone tells you when you're a kid growing up and they ask you what you want to do when you grow up. Well, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. So I think Monarch, for me at least, has been that job. It's just too bad it can't actually be my job.
Daedera?
I would say don't be afraid to reach out to your monarchy if you need to. We are here for you. We are more than happy to help you with, what's going on at your park or what's going on at your event or anything. Just reach out to us if you need advice, if you need help. We're here for you.
Jinx?
I just have to echo what Daedra said, that you should never be intimidated or trying to contact your monarchy. You should always, always be willing to talk to your populace. But just always keep an open door, I say, when you're monarch. And don't be scared to run for monarch. Like, if you're wavering, why not? It's a fun shot, And the other part of it, like Kenshin was saying, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's pretty cool to be like, I'm queen. So, it's pretty fun. Even if it is a job at the end of the day, it's a lot of work, but it's fun.
Harold?
My name is Harold, and I approve this message. Everybody's hit it. It's a blast. Being Monarch is absolutely fun. It's what you make it, and if you are wavering, go for it. You never know. It's very rewarding. It can be taxing if you let it, but it's very rewarding.
Raphael?
I'm going to use a half quote somebody, or My statement is going to be half somebody else's quote, and then, by God, we care and we try, and it's always my pleasure to honor those who do.
With that, thank you again to the panel members. If we could, a quick round of applause for them.